Welcome back, everyone, to another interview from the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by freshman on the Stanford women's lacrosse team, Sawyer Billings. Sawyer, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, and how is everything going?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. It's going great. We just got back for our winter quarter and it's busy, but it's awesome.
It's good. I feel like it's better to be busy than to be bored. That's the way I would look at it.
Totally. 100%.
How has your freshman year been going for you, both on and off the field at Stanford so far?
It's been great. I mean, as for anybody, college is a huge adjustment. So there's definitely been a learning curve with everything, but I just feel so fortunate to have met such incredible people here and to have developed such an incredible community so quickly. And I've been loving my classes, I've been loving lacrosse, and I just feel really grateful.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Any interesting classes you've taken at Stanford so far? It's such a great academic university. I imagine there's some cool courses that you've been able to look at.
There was a really interesting one I took fall quarter that was this small seminar that I had to apply for, taught by two psychologists about destigmatizing psychosis, which I thought was super niche and interesting. And I had a really great time with the guest speakers and the other kids in my class.
That's awesome. Well, who are some of the guest speakers that they brought in?
Well, they brought in some people to talk about like sort of the neuroscience perspective. They brought in some historians. I was also in this incredible lecture series about the election, and they had incredible speakers. It was like such a Stanford experience, I think, to say the least. But we had Hillary Clinton come in, we had Sal Khan, we had Evan Spiegel, like just some incredible talent to learn from, no matter what you believe.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Definitely
Yeah.
wouldn't get those type of speakers at the university I go to, that's for sure. So that's a lot of fun. I definitely would enjoy that if I went there. But getting back to the lacrosse side of things, how would you evaluate your team's performance and your individual performance during fall ball this semester? And I guess how do you hope it will translate to the spring season coming up?
I would say there's some really exciting stuff going on with our program. We are so fortunate to have such incredible, brilliant coaches. I would say that everyone was doing amazingly. We unfortunately have had some injuries this fall and in the past, but people are just being so resilient. And for me, I would say it was definitely a learning curve coming in, as I'm sure there is with every freshman. So getting used to like the new level of contact and speed and everything. But everyone has been so kind and welcoming. And I think I've put a lot of extra time in maybe studying the plays. I have my little lacrosse notebook I use all the time and doing some extra wall ball just to hopefully get my skills up to where I want them to be.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Is everyone like how many people are going to be out, I guess, for the season? I know Peep's going to be out for the whole year, but I'm trying to think of
Unfortunately,
I don't know.
yeah.
I haven't been keeping up too much with the injury news. Is hopefully it's just not too many players that aren't going to be ready for the upcoming year for the first game.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some people coming back, which I'm not really the one to speak on their timelines, but
Yeah, I'm just
hopefully
curious, like
they'll be back as soon as
general. Yeah.
possible. Unfortunately, one of our freshmen had to get another shoulder surgery, so she'll be out for sure. But our our training staff here and our doctors are incredible, so hopefully we won't have girls out for too long.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the worst part about sports, in my opinion, is the
Totally.
injuries. So, hopefully, like I said, I'm wishing you and your team all the best and healthy for the 2025 season. Now, obviously, you're talking about some of the adjustments that you've had to make to college lacrosse and how much you've had to learn over the past few months. What has been like the biggest change between high school lacrosse compared to college, and what adjustments have you had to make because of that?
I would say the two biggest things are the speed and the level of contact. I grew up in Colorado and played for an awesome high school there. I absolutely loved it. And there was totally some great competition. I also took a gap year after high school. And so that was a unique experience. Only really trained sort of winter, spring, and summer. So had the fall off during my gap year, but got to do some cool travel then. But definitely coming in, it's just such an incredible environment because everyone around you is so, so talented. And that forces you to adapt and to bring yourself up to that level, which I think is just an incredible opportunity. However, it definitely comes with some challenges too.
Yeah. What would you say has been like the biggest improvement you've made to your game so far in college? Just because obviously with all the adjustments comes learning new stuff, which eventually becomes improvements. So I assume there's some stuff in your game that you've noticed that have gotten better since you started practicing with the team.
Totally. I think my vision and just lax IQ in general have improved a ton. Um, Nicole is with us this year as a new offensive coordinator, and she is someone I look up to so much. She is so smart and so thoughtful. And speaking with her and Coach Daniel Spencer about the offense has just been a really interesting and powerful change to the way that we all think about it, I think. But just looking at the team offense, I think I've been able to adapt my mind in a lot of new ways.
And what's it been like building chemistry with your other teammates as well, especially the other freshmen?
It's been great. I think about halfway through last quarter, I had this mindset shift with especially the girls in my class. And it's so fun when you come in. It's like, oh my gosh, there's all these new strangers and people, and I just really want to be friends with them. But then halfway through last quarter, I had this thought of, hey, like these girls are just your family. Like you're going to see them every day and you're always going to support each other, but you don't need to put a ton of pressure on it because they're going to support you and they're going to love you no matter what. And that has been so comforting, I think, to just be able to go and see them at all our meals and go to practice and just learn everything I can about them because they're so special and try to learn who I want to be around them as well.
Now, obviously, you're being coached by Danielle Spencer. I know you mentioned in one of your previous answers that she's really helped change your perspective on the offensive side of things, which helps improve your game. But what makes her such a great coach from your perspective, and how is she different from some of the other coaches that you've had in the past?
You know, I've been really fortunate to have some brilliant and thoughtful coaches, especially in the past couple years. And something that's new with her, and I think with college lacrosse in general, is the ability to sort of adapt players from all aspects of them as people, not just on the lacrosse field. And Danielle is absolutely no exception to this. She is so thoughtful and wants us to be the best players we can be from every single standpoint. Like over our winter break, she assigned us this book called Learn Excellence. And we all read it and we're all giving little presentations on bits of the book that we found really meaningful. And it's just so incredible the amount of resources she has provided us and how much she cares about our program and about us as individuals.
Now, what are your team's goals and expectations for the upcoming season? Obviously, the team's a little different from last year's squad that won the Pac-12 championship, but I'm wondering how your team has sort of been building that consistency, dealing with the pressure of being the new kids on the block in the ACC, and also trying to find roles for all the new players on the team so that the team can be successful for the upcoming year.
I mean, I think we have some pretty big goals. We have had some meetings about it, and we're all really on the same page. And we really want to make a difference here in the ACC this year. I think we're all really excited for the new opportunities and competition it provides. And I think it's the same for all teams. We've got that goal of the national championship, and we're going to do everything we can to get there.
Yeah, how excited are you playing the ACC? I know when you were getting recruited, Stanford was in the Pac-12, and now after that, they joined the ACC for your freshman year. Is there any particular team or player that you're looking forward to going up against for the upcoming season? And what are just overall thoughts on the conference move from your team's perspective?
Ooh, I think we're all so excited. I mean, it's a huge opportunity. The competition is, I mean, you can't beat it. And it's going to be a lot of travel for sure for a West Coast school playing all the East Coast teams, but I think we just can't wait. I know we have our eyes on a couple of games, um, possibly some games that were big games last year. Definitely have our eyes on Denver and on UVA. Some that are in conference and some that aren't, but yeah, we just can't wait.
Yeah. And another question I want to ask you was one of the adjustments that a lot of freshmen tell me when I've done this podcast is learning how to balance the cross and academics at such a high level. You go to such a prestigious university where the academics are obviously really, really tough. So how have you learned to balance the cross and academics at such a high level so you can get, I guess, the best of both worlds where you can excel at both those parts of your life as a student athlete?
Yeah. Uh, learned that Stanford is absolutely the right place for me in that aspect. I love school. I've always loved school and learning and being in class and working with people to learn new concepts. And so that part of it has been so much fun for me. And something that's been really helpful to balance that is the birth of resources that Stanford provides us. We have academic advisors, we have tutoring, we have resources of absolutely every facet of life. And our team is really focused. They're really great at separating that and of getting our work done. So we do work together a lot. And it's definitely a lot when you have the academic and also athletic schedules we do, but we make time and we get it all done.
So let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are now at Stanford. So, from the research I did on yourself, it says that you're from Englewood, Colorado. So, talk about growing up there. How did you start playing lacrosse? What's sort of the origin story of your lacrosse career, I guess?
Yeah, I'm from Colorado, originally Boulder, and then moved to the Denver area to Englewood. My dad played lacrosse at Cornell, and so he was a huge inspiration for us. I have three brothers, and we all played growing up, and it was super fun. We moved to Denver so that I could go to Cherry Creek High School, which has incredible program, and the coaches were wonderful. While I was there, I got to play with some amazing players, and it was amazing. Being a West Coast player, there's a lot of travel for club tournaments. I mean, flying to the East Coast all the time was a huge sacrifice for my family to make, but it was worth it. And it was always my dream to go to Stanford. And I'm just so grateful to end up here.
Yeah. Were you the youngest sibling? Because I feel like being the only girl in the family of three brothers, I feel like it probably taught you a lot about lacrosse.
It did. I'm the second out of four. So I have one older brother and two
Hmm.
younger. My older brother plays actually on the club lacrosse team here at Stanford. And my two younger brothers, one has switched over to tennis, and my youngest brother still plays and is hoping to play in college at someday.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That must be nice to have another like sense of home, I guess, away from home, having your brother with you at Stanford.
He's my best friend. It's my favorite thing.
Now, who was your favorite player and team watch growing up? I imagine it must have been maybe Cornell because your dad went there, or maybe even Stanford since that was one of your dream schools to go to.
Yeah, my mom went to Stanford, so Stanford was always just this incredible place in my mind. And I mean, it has measured up to it in every way. Growing up in Boulder, it was so funny. They started their program while I was younger there, and my mom would find us babysitters by contacting the girls off of the roster. So all my babysitters were the CU players, and I loved going to all of their games and watching them. I loved watching Stanford. When we moved to Denver, I spent a lot of time watching Kendra Lanuza at Denver, but let's see, some Stanford players, Galen Liu. I loved watching her, Genesis Lucero, which it's kind of crazy to see these people that were my idols growing up that I absolutely loved watching and having them come to our practices as alums. It's just a really crazy experience.
I have to ask you, you are playing Colorado this year, which is going to be a lot of fun, but you
We
also go to
are.
Cornell. So how cool is that going to be getting to play in the field? Like Stanford versus Cornell, that must be kind of cool for your parents to see that happen.
It's so cool. Yeah, I can't wait. And we get to go to Colorado usually every other year to play those schools. So that'll be so much fun to go. And I do a lot of youth coaching when I'm at home. So those girls can come to our games and hopefully have a team dinner at my house or something like that. That'd be so
That's
much fun.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's talk about your high school lacrosse career now. So, like you mentioned, you went to Cherry Creek High. What was your high
Mhm.
school lacrosse experience like for you? What's like your favorite high school lacrosse memory when you look back on it now?
Let's see. My favorite memory was probably my junior year. We pulled off a really incredible comeback in one of our quarterfinal games that year, which was so much fun against a rival school. And it was great. I definitely got to learn a lot. Oh gosh, sorry, there's construction in the background, but I got to learn a lot about all aspects of lacrosse. I played two-way midi in high school, and so I was all over the field and learning everything there. But I got to learn some sort of closer concepts with my club team. And so I think I got a lot of different elements of the game and got to learn a lot. And hard work has always been something that is one of my biggest values. And so I think I really got to develop that while I was in high school, and it's carried over and served me really well. I've been here in college as well.
Now, you also play club lacrosse for 3D, so I just want to ask you what your club lacrosse experience was like and how it sort of helped prepare you for college.
It was amazing. I definitely bopped around on a couple of teams there, ended up at 3D and loved it. Mike O'Neill was my coach, and he is brilliant and just so thoughtful and motivated and loves the game probably more than anyone. And it was really amazing to get to play for him and to have him in my corner. He does an amazing thing in Colorado where girls who play college lacrosse are invited to come train together over breaks. So over summer and over winter break, we all get together and play, and it's so great to see everyone, but great to get in that competition against some players from other schools as well.
That's awesome. Did you get the chance to do that during winter break this past month?
I did. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Must be nice to have when most people are on that break, you sort of get to continue to play a little bit. So it makes it not you're not as rusty when you get back to school during the
Totally.
spring semester or spring season.
Totally.
Now, last lacrosse question I want to ask you before we get to our other segment is what was your recruiting process like with Stanford and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at?
As I mentioned earlier, Stanford was always a dream. And going into my recruiting process, I really made sure to look at other programs because they all have so much to offer. But in the end, it was always Stanford for me. And I waited it out and got what I wanted. It definitely took some time and some patience and some wonderful people in my corner, but it worked out. And I'm just so grateful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now let's transition to a segment that I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some
Okay.
non-lacrosse questions to get to know you more off the field. I think this would be a good chance for people to learn more about you as well. Um, First one is, what is the best concert that you've ever been to?
Ooh, I love Justin Bieber growing up. So maybe Justin Bieber's Believe or Taylor Swift 1989.
That sounds pretty cool. I'm a big Justin Bieber fan myself. Uh,
Love
like
it.
like more of his like newer stuff, I feel like than maybe some of his older
Okay.
stuff, but like the Purpose album, that's probably my favorite. So
Yeah, it's
lo
awesome.
would have loved to see both of them live. Haven't gotten the chance to do that yet. So
You
I
should.
would I would say for me probably Billy Joel. That was a lot of fun. Got to see him live
Ooh,
when I was like in
that's
middle
awesome.
school. So that was really cool. Now, what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Ooh, I am in a class currently on the politics of race, gender, and sexuality in modern America. And I was reading some of the stuff preceding the Seneca Falls convention. And that was really interesting to me. Yeah, there were definitely some perspectives I hadn't considered that it opened my eyes to.
I would say for myself, there was this article from the early 1900s that was like made predictions for what the year 2000 would look like.
Oh,
And it
okay.
was really interesting to see what people way back in the day thought the future would look like. And some of the stuff they got correct, like they predicted like robots would clean people's houses, and that sort of come true with like Roombas. And they also
Totally.
predicted like people would be able to talk to one another without being in the same place, sort of like a FaceTime. And obviously, look what we're doing right now. So they got
Here we
that
are.
right. But they
That's
also
amazing.
thought like flying cars would exist by the year 2000. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet. So it was kind of unique to see their perspective on the future and how different it looked and how there's still stuff that we still think is the future that they thought would already be happening by now.
Maybe in a couple years we'll get there.
I think it'd be cool to have flying cars just because I hate
Totally.
traffic. That's one of my big pet peeves. So
Valid.
now, who has the best style off the field on the Stanford women's lacrosse team besides yourself, obviously?
I don't think I give myself that award. I try my best though. Maybe Erin Schaefer or Jordan Case. They have some incredible outfits. They're just so effortlessly cool all the time.
Now, which player on the Stanford women's lacrosse team would you want to be on a long road trip with? Obviously, you guys are taking long road trips this year,
Yeah.
so I'm curious if there was like a big road trip, you had to be stuck on a car with someone for 6, 7 hours. Which teammate would you pick to deal with that road trip with?
Maybe Annabelle Friss. She's one of our captains and she has had the most interesting life and she tells us incredible stories and is just so kind and we all look up to her so much. So she'd definitely be a good person to be in the car with.
Now, speaking of travel, what is one place you would love to travel to soon?
Ooh, Greece. It looks so beautiful and I've never been.
I would say for me, probably like the West Coast. I've never been there, and I think it would be a lot of
No
cool,
way.
very cool to see like California and like all that kind of stuff.
You should come out to the Bay Area. It's really amazing.
Oh yeah, I know like a lot of people when they visit San Francisco, they visit the Stanford campus to see what it's like.
You should. We definitely do have a lot of tourists I see when I'm biking around.
Yeah, that's gotta be cool though, because like some
It is.
perspective that like I got was like you don't realize how lucky to be in the area you live because there's people that literally pay to go see that for like one day where you get to see it like every day. So it's like it's important to have that like perspective sometimes.
Totally. And I used to be one of those kids who would come with my parents on the tours and just be in awe of everything. And I just get to live here now. Just so amazing. I'm very
Now,
lucky.
what is one show that you can binge watch all day?
Ooh, I just watched How I Met Your Mother and loved it. It's the comedy in there is really witty, and I really like that.
Nice,
What about
nice.
you?
I would say for me, probably I don't watch too much TV to be honest with you. Probably like Breaking Bad. That's usually a fun, or not fun, but like interesting show to watch every now and
Okay,
then. So I'd go with that one.
fair enough.
Now, last non-lacrosse question is if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why? And I decided to put a caveat on this to make it interesting because I give out the same
Okay.
answer. Has to be a Stanford alum.
A Stanford alum. Honestly, there is a lot to choose from
That's
there.
what I mean. It was easy to pick. So,
Maybe Cameron Brink. She
hmm
is amazing and just everything she does is so cool. And I would love to talk with her about how she's doing. I saw her
Yeah.
in the training room the other day, which was pretty crazy. I was with my teammate and we're like, oh, look who's over there.
Did you get to say hi to her or no?
No, maybe next time.
Oh, you gotta do that. That would be a lot of fun. But it's very easy
Totally.
to notice her because she's so tall.
True.
That's a good answer. I remember hearing an interview with her and she was talking about her ACL injury and just her perspective on that. And I thought it was really interesting to hear that. So hopefully she's back next year and killing it with the Sparks because she's one of my favorite basketball players as well.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I would say for my lunch, Stanford alum, I'm just looking it up. Andrew Luck, he seems like a cool dude, so I'll go with
Good
him.
pick. Yeah. He's back as a GM. I saw him at
Oh,
like
that's
our little
awesome.
fueling station the other day. We're like, hey Andrew. And he was like, hey guys.
Oh, that's
He definitely
awesome.
didn't know who we were, but we knew who he was.
I think you'll know who you guys are very soon with the season
Hope
coming
so.
up. So now let's get back to a couple of lacrosse questions now before we end things off. What advice, I guess, would you give to younger players listening to this episode on what it takes to play in college like yourself?
I would say work hard, and find what you love about lacrosse and focus on that. For me, I love the like intellectual part of it, of thinking about it and being creative with new perspectives. And that's something I find a lot of joy in. But if it's the competitiveness, if it's the camaraderie, which are all parts that I definitely love, focus on what you love and keep going and work really hard.
That's awesome. That's good advice. As someone who doesn't play lacrosse, I'm definitely interested in like the coaching aspect of it. That's something I've been trying to learn more about the sport. Like I've noticed a lot of teams either have man-to-man zone de or defense or zone coverage defense. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting to see how teams will attack a team's defense when they're doing man-to-man versus zone. And that's sort of what
Yeah,
I've been trying to learn more about this fall so I can be more intellectual when talking about the sport for our podcast for this upcoming season that we're in now.
totally. Even for us in it, there's a lot to learn all the time.
Oh, for sure. Especially in the ACC, it's like cool to see like how different defenders like defend attackers, and I feel like you can learn a lot from that, and it can make you more creative as an attacker too, because you can learn how to deal with different type of schemes and things like that.
For sure.
Now, what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective? Obviously, you're from an area where it's not really known as a lacrosse hotbed, so I'm just curious if there's like anything that could be done to help grow the sport from your perspective.
Yeah, lacrosse has really been expanding in the West. I mean, it is totally an East Coast focused sport. However, it's been growing a lot in Texas and Colorado and California specifically. There's an organization I was a part of for a while in high school and still like to participate in that was founded by Eric Law that's called Denver City Lax, which is working to make lacrosse more accessible. And I think that's a huge aspect of growing the sport is making it more available for people who aren't necessarily in the sport or don't have the ability to be in the sport on their own. But I think it's really meaningful and something that deserves a lot of time and attention.
That's awesome. I totally agree with you on that. One perspective that I had was people were saying like in other college sports, they have these like in-season tournaments in the middle of the year in like neutral zone, like neutral site locations. So like for example, like there will be like an in-season hockey tournament in like Palm Springs, California, and it like
Okay.
helps like grow the sport in like those areas where it's not as well known. I feel like it would be cool if women's lacrosse did that, like have like a in-season tournament in Texas, Florida, like in places where lacrosse isn't as well known, and those players can do clinics there. You could have like an in-season tournament so players or people from the area can see like high-level college lacrosse in person, but also can help teams prepare for like their conference tournaments or the national tournament because you can sort of set it up that way. And you can play high-end non-conference teams, which can help like your pairwise rating for the tournament when that time comes around. I just think it would be really beneficial for a lot of people if they started doing more of that kind of stuff. I've seen it all the time in other college sports, but not really in lacrosse. So I think that would be cool to see that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Now, last question I have for you, Sawyer, is do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates, family members, friends, mom and dad, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Oh, I'd love to shout out my whole Stanford team. They're all so amazing. It's hard to pick just one of them. Shout out to my coaches, to my family, and I think you should have Lilia Sini from CU Lacrosse on your podcast next. She is hilarious and wonderful, and someone I got to play in high school with. So ask Lily; she'd be a great guest.
Awesome, awesome. We'll definitely have to reach out. Sawyer, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate your time and getting the chance to talk with you today. I enjoyed our conversation, and obviously, I'm wishing you all the best for your freshman year. I know you're going to do great things, and wishing you and your team a healthy and happy 2025 season.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.